How's it going, everyone? This is Dominic Minchella. I am the Kansas City Chiefs co-beat writer and the host of the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast. Thank you guys so much for stopping in today. Today, we're going to continue on with our offseason talk, as now the Kansas City Chiefs are wrapped up with their preseason games, their festivities, and I want to touch on something and kind of give my thoughts and opinions on something that could be bringing some concern within the Chiefs kingdom or just from an outsider standpoint. And I'll break it down in a second. But I do think that now that the preseason is concluded, the Kansas City Chiefs, they will have their sights set. They look locked in, especially the starters, to head into the first week of the regular season against the Los Angeles Chargers to take on the Los Angeles Chargers, over in Sao Paulo, Brazil for week one. I think that they're going to be very locked and loaded, ready to go. But there could be some concerns in this area, and it is dissecting and talking about the four, dating back to the Super Bowl loss to the Philadelphia Eagles in February, 4 straight losses for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I know that the preseason means nothing in sense of blemishes to a regular season record. However, as I've alluded to several times in pieces on the website, and also just in these podcasts, no team wants to go out into the preseason game and come away losers. These guys are professional athletes. They're not here to lose. They don't want to lose. They know that losing is a part of the game, sure, but it's never something that they strive for. And I know that some people could be saying, why can't you just leave the starters in? Why do we need the depth in there? Why do we need the third and fourth string guys competing for spots on the roster that are already taken? And to answer that question, it's just purely based off of saving and preserving the starters and their secondary to make sure that they're, not risking injury at any point in the preseason. They have a tough first 9 weeks of their schedule, and they need to have every single person healthy as they can. They've already dealt with some injuries thus far this offseason. It's important that they keep building towards the regular season. Once the regular season gets underway, you're going to see all the familiar faces in Kansas City donning the uniform. But there could be some concerns that could fuel the fire of the doubters, saying that the dynasty of Kansas City is over. They lost the Super Bowl. They haven't been able to come away with a preseason game victory. They haven't been able to rise to the occasion and hold on to a lead while they can get up there very fast. And to that, I think that there should be no panic at all. Hear me out. So obviously the biggest sting of those losses that I just listed off is the Super Bowl loss. They were denied history by the Eagles, as well as, just cementing themselves in the legacy of the National Football League. Now they're just a what-if story, what could have been. But I doubt that. I see a lot of people saying that the Kansas City Chiefs dynasty has fallen. It's crumbling. It's falling apart. To that, I say we got to wait until the regular season. Now, I know that since I cover them, I can, from time to time, I don't want to be biased whatsoever. I'm going to tell you guys as straight as it is, especially from my point of view. But I believe that the Kansas City Chiefs are still a very strong team, and they are the team to beat in the AFC, let alone the AFC West. Now, as we know, the Los Angeles Chargers, who they're facing in week one, alongside with the Denver Broncos down the line in the season, and the Las Vegas Raiders, all share the AFC West with the Kansas City Chiefs. They had a strong season last year against their division. And note to self, and also note to everyone else, they lost all 3 of their preseason games last season as well, and they punched their ticket to the Super Bowl. I think that's just as plain as it gets right there. Yeah, the preseason games are reps, practice, to make sure that the players who are for sure starters, they stay routinely, they don't get rusty, if they want to work out specific areas of their games, they can do so. The preseason is more or less who the head coach, Andy Reid, and the rest of his staff can look towards as seeing, we can lean to him in this area should this guy go down. vice versa. It could be on both offensively and defensively. And I think that what we've seen from the preseason games that we got to take away some positives. The ones looked really good. The 2025 NFL draft class for the Kansas City Chiefs, they also looked pretty put together. There were some surprises in there for players who have been able to make their presence known, whether it came from free agent signings as well, like Christian Fulton, able to make his presence known against the Chicago Bears, or the NFL draft, like Jeffrey Bassa, a guy who has been just emerging and continuously growing in statistics on the field and behind the scenes in the locker room. But if they're concerned that the Kansas City Chiefs dynasty has crumbled, is it falling apart just because there's a 4-game losing streak going on? No. And it won't fall apart, and I bet you the narrative will change very quickly if the Kansas City Chiefs do come away with the victory against the Chargers overseas. I've alluded to this in articles several times. The Kansas City Chiefs are a towering figure in week 1 matchups. In the last decade, let alone any one that Patrick Mahomes has started, he's lost one week 1 matchup. That was against the Detroit Lions since he's been the starting quarterback. Since 2018, 2-time MVP, 3-time Super Bowl winner, as well as the Kansas City Chiefs being able to have their continuous dynasty. This team is still in the discussions to be Super Bowl favorites. I don't understand the conversation of how this team has fallen apart in the blink of an eye. They lost the Super Bowl. Yeah, they had their butts kicked. They had everything go against them in that. That's a way for the Kansas City Chiefs if the doubters are gonna light the fire on them and punch that narrative, how about the Kansas City Chiefs? They light their own fire within them and underneath them to punch themselves into the regular season to be able to walk away with several wins. This is a team that won 15 games last year, and they're still being doubted like they were below 500. Takeaways, though, from the Kansas City Chiefs in the preseason games, there's a lot of positives. Josh Simmons looked really good. Patrick Mahomes looks like Patrick Mahomes, and that's the best. The offensive line looks a little bit sturdier compared to when they were protecting Mahomes. Gardner Minshew looks like a reliable backup. Hopefully, there are times that Mahomes is always out on the field, but if they have to lean on Gardner Minshew, he's a guy who can fill in from time to time. The defense could be a little bit shaky, especially if you go into that depth area. They allowed 19 points in the fourth quarter against the Bears, and I understand, like I said so many times, it is the preseason, but still losing is not what these guys go out to do. They don't want to go out and walk away with their heads hung. These guys are used to one-score victories, if we're alluding to last season, or one-score victories and holding on to tight leads. These guys are winners. And until they are proven guilty of falling apart in the regular season, I think that fans should keep an eye on Kansas City and say, you know what, they're not down and out yet until we see that they're down and out. And from what we've seen thus far, despite 3 losses in the preseason, coming off of a Super Bowl loss, I don't think that they've fallen apart. I think that they're only hungrier. That being said, though, ladies and gentlemen, as always, you should follow me over at X, at Dom Minchella. I post and repost every single day. You're not going to want to miss any Kansas City Chiefs news. You can also follow us at KC Chiefs on SI, where we post and repost every single day. Kansas City Chiefs on SI is exclusively free to you. Best coverage of the Chiefs as we head into the regular season. That being said, as always, ladies and gentlemen, be kind to one another, and I'll see you tomorrow.